Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dividends, the show for and about your College of Business. My first guest today is Angela Knight. Good to have you here. We've known each other quite some time.
Long time.
Angela runs the MBA program at the College of Business at Mississippi State, and it is such an important big piece of the College of Business puzzle. Actually, not just College of Business. It's a program that is known throughout the university and has a great reputation, and we blame you for that. How about that?
I'll take it every day.
How long have you been taking care of the MBA program now?
I started in the fall of 2014, so a fairly short period of time, but I think I've managed to accomplish a few things that we really wanted to get done.
So let's start with the basics. Why an MBA, and why an MBA from Mississippi State?
I think we have several wonderful things about our program. We're a short program, we're 1 year, so that's 10 classes, but it's also quite appealing to students who are coming from other majors. So, for example, we have several engineers in the current program. They want to go on to be engineering managers. Having an MBA allows them to be a little faster on the promotion track, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you, what kind of feedback do you get from these students that aren't College of Business students after they've completed the program? And I'm sure that you've had to have some students come in and just go, wow, this is going to help me so much.
Mm-hmm. I have. They at first it's like they're having to learn a new language, especially for the engineering students, but even with the chemistry, the biochemistry students that we have, it's just information they've never been exposed to, having to really learn how to communicate and really having to learn how to talk to business leaders that perhaps they've never had the opportunity to do that before, and they find it a little intimidating, and we throw them in their very first week during orientation before they've even had a class. So we really, really work on those kinds of skills with them. Yeah, and when I do my exit interviews, they really talk about that a lot.
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm most impressed with that you have done, because I try to stress to our entrepreneurs the importance of soft skills. And it's just not just knowing, your core academic stuff and the technical pieces, but if you don't know how to present yourself and how to talk to people, it's going to hold you back no matter what you're doing, whether you're an engineer or in fashion merchandising or whatever. It's not just the College of Business majors. So you have worked to really emphasize the soft skill piece, and why did you decide to do that, and what are some of the things you're doing?
One of the things a story that I've always heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that we would probably have had the internet 20 years earlier if the engineers who developed it had been able to communicate better to the finance team. So I think about that a lot, and I realize that with our on-campus program, many of our students are coming straight from undergraduate, so they've never had any really in-depth training in communication or soft skills, those kinds of things. And so one of the first things that I did was implement what we call Springboard Week. And the students actually come in the week before classes, and they're here from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, sometimes later. And we do everything from resume development to personal branding. But we also have a speaking competition. So I bring in corporate representatives and alumni. So I usually get about 30 to 40 of them to come in. We have an individual speaking competition that's only a 30-minute prep, and then after 30 minutes, you have to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech with no notes.
Wow.
That afternoon, then the students have had a 24-hour prep period to do a team presentation on a small project that we assign. So by the time they finish Springboard Week, they pretty well know what kind of presentation style we want, but also the other kinds of things that we're going to be teaching them throughout the year. So this fall, I already have a full slate of sessions scheduled for them.
So I get in on the tail end of this and work with the students on the capstone piece, which is normally the last class they take, and it's where you team them up and they go work with a real business on a consulting project that is pretty high stakes, high level.
Right. And it's funny because at first the students are a little intimidated by that. They have done a few little smaller projects in their classes, even in undergrad, but never something that is so direct contact with a client, and nothing that is usually quite as extensive, and even something that the client can implement. So it ends up being a pretty interesting semester.
Well, it is a great program, and it really has grown under your leadership, and so thanks for that.
Thank you.
I enjoy working with you.
Well, I enjoy working with you. It's a lot of fun.
And thanks for coming down and doing the program with us, and we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Angela's husband Frank is going to see if he can do as good a job as she did. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.
So you have an idea. It's exciting, it's original, it's genius, and you think it could be the next big thing. But how do you turn this idea into reality? At the Entrepreneurship Center, we will guide you through every step of the entrepreneurial process and help along the way, from developing and enhancing your idea to building your product and bringing it to market. Our programs will help refine your idea and connect you with other creative individuals. You can collaborate with students and discover their brilliant ideas, learn from expert faculty and accomplished business leaders, and even receive money to expand your venture and start your own company. Whether your idea is a revolutionary product, app, or service, we can help. The Entrepreneurship Center at Mississippi State University. From invention to innovation, it starts here.
There are a number of student activities that students can get involved with, but few of them know that they can start a company while they're in school. We want students to consider that when they come to school here, they have 4 years to create themselves a job, create a new venture, and that's really what the center is here to provide. We're here to provide the resources, connections, and programs that can help them start a company. The background of our students is extremely diverse. All across campus, students are getting involved, forming these companies, and people, all sorts of different backgrounds, coming together to create these startups that are just doing amazing things. Regardless of where you're at in the entire startup process, whether you're coming in with a fresh idea, or you have an established company, or just are trying to get interested in entrepreneurship, we want to put students in a position where they feel encouraged and supported to pursue their passions so they can make an impact no matter what field or industry they go into.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining us now is Frank Adams, and he is in the marketing department in the College of Business. He also married to Angela Knight, who was just on and did a really fabulous job and set the bar very high for Frank. Good to have you here.
Intimidated, but I'll make it.
Yeah, well, it's a tough act to follow, it really is. You work in our supply chain area, right? So, what is it, and why does that interest you? It's very important, obviously, in business, but what is it that about it makes you want to research it?
Well, I sort of stumbled into it in my real life career before I went into academia, and
which was what?
Oh, I've spent most of the time as an operations manager in medical device.
Okay.
And so I was familiar with logistics. I became more fascinated with it when I was in my graduate studies. It's become more and more crucial. First, because commerce became global, and so handling the flows of materials became crucial for the bottom line. And it's even become more so as e-commerce has begun to dominate. When you talk to major retailers, what they're concerned about these days is not so much their shelf space as they are their supply chain flows. So,
right, and we actually have a real world example that we worked on that you brought to us, and we worked on with our MBA students, where a company in the southern part of the state had a product that they made and shipped out to Lowe's or Walmart, and they were informed by the companies, hey, you're going to have to just drop ship these or take care of this yourself, right?
Right, and that tends to be very expensive, especially for small businesses, but most small manufacturers, that's what they're facing these days, is large outlets, large wholesalers, large retailers are telling them, we don't want to store your stuff anymore because we don't want to pay for it. And so you got to figure out how to handle that expense yourself.
Well, but a lot of the smaller mom and pops aren't equipped. So what do? They turn to folks like you.
Right, there are ways around it, usually dealing with what are called third-party logistics providers, people that specialize in handling those kind of flows. That's one solution. Others choose to go into forms of the 3PL business themselves, much like some of the local manufacturers just down the road from us are doing.
Explain that a little bit more.
Right. There is a steel processing business not too far from here, and what they are often doing is taking scrap metal and repurposing it, or taking inventory of steel that other people own and are repurposing it or actually doing the conversion to it. But what they're really doing is they're doing a logistics third-party provider role where they get the inventory in. They may tweak it a little bit or may do some severe adjustments to it, some extensive work, but then they're sending it back out to the actual steel owners' customers. So they never actually own this material that comes through their doors.
All right, so what trends do you see in the future for supply chain?
Oh, it's only going to get bigger. As I said, retail is depending on supply chain more and more. You see people wanting smaller storefronts, smaller square footage space. So what I see happening is it's going to become more and more dependent on forecasting. People are able to guess how much they need, since they can't just hold on to large amounts of inventory anymore. Right. They're going to have to be much more accurate about how much do they have, so they don't actually disappoint their customers, but they're not actually taking any more than they have to.
How much of a pie in the sky concept is it to have literally order it and 30 minutes later the drone drops the
kind of depends on where you
yard?
live. That's going to be much more realistic for larger, densely populated urban centers, because supply chain depends on being able to move a lot of stuff. And if you're having to transport it over large amounts of distance between remote customers, that tends to be more expensive per unit.
So where does Mississippi State play in all this?
Well, we've had a program here for a long time. It began as a transportation program back in the 70s. And, excuse me, the interest in transportation sort of declined by the industry as they consolidated and so forth. But where it's gone since then is our students are preparing themselves for careers at major corporations like International Paper and FedEx, but also for small logistics service companies. So we wind up putting students into every part of the supply chain.
And what is your role in that? Because I know you've done a lot to sort of...
Well, I'm the coordinator for the program in marketing, and so my emphasis has always been on interesting business in our students and interesting students in the businesses that come to us. That if we're helping businesses see what value proposition we've got for them, that's going to draw some students in for us.
Well, and we're a land grant, so that is part of our mission, to turn the expertise you have and get it to our students and get it out into business and industry in the state. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for being my guest.
No problem.
I think you did just as good as Angela did.
She'll disagree.
We'll see. Folks, thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time on Dividends.